So as of right now, everyone seems absolutely stoked about this James Fishback guy, right? And to be honest with you, to a certain extent, I totally get it. James is currently running for the Republican primary in the upcoming Florida gubernatorial election. He's basically running the Zoran Mamdani playbook. The internet is his game, and every platform he joins becomes his playground. And although at first glance it probably seems like these guys are on completely opposite ends of the ideological standpoint, I actually think they are a lot more similar than you might think. More so in the sense that I do truly believe both of these people want what's best for their respective state and or city. Whether or not you think they're going about it the right way is a matter of your own personal opinion, but ignoring these similarities would truly just be laughable. These guys do not operate like the average politician. They operate like content creators. And if nothing else, I think they should at the very least show you which direction politics is heading. It won't be long until Aiden Ross is in the White House with Clavicular as the vice president. Social media influencers will more than likely be the next generation of politicians. Of course, people like Nick Fuentes and Hassan Piker have been around forever, but the difference is, Nick, in his own words, has said he's not trying to run for office.
Run for office? Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I could never win because I'm so controversial. I'm just not made for public consumption like that. I'm not a mascot. We need someone to run for office who's like a Chad, who has a family, who's like polite. I'm a Spurg. I'm gonna run for office. They're just gonna play the greatest hits of the super chats. I'm never gonna win.
Fishback, on the other hand, is clearly using the internet to climb his way into an actual position of power.
My name is James Fishback, and I'm running for Florida governor to build a state that everyone can afford. It's not just that the price of things have gone up by so much, it's that our take-home pay has not kept up the pace.
Now, does that or does that not sound almost identical to the type of promise Zoran Mamdani made to New Yorkers during his campaign last year?
It's more critical than ever, given the national crisis of affordability, one that New Yorkers know very well across these 5 boroughs. They wanted a leader who would take on the cost of living crisis that makes it impossible for working people to afford living in this city.
See what I mean? These two are on completely opposite ends of the political spectrum, but the messages they're pushing are both very similar to one another. And I think the passion behind their messages, and the way they spread those messages, is the real reason they were both able to build support so fast. Obviously, Mamdani secured his spot as the mayor of New York City, and Fishback, at least in the poll I'm looking at, went from like 2% to like 36% within just a few months. And again, right now, we are only talking about the Republican primary. All I'm saying is the guy's definitely got some motion, but I can't lie. The compassion they present towards people they claim to want to help is basically where the similarities end. And before I take this any further, let me make something perfectly clear. I have not yet decided how I feel about Fishback overall. I've talked privately with a couple people who are way more tapped in than I am, and you know, they basically told me this guy might not be it. We'll get into it later. Right now, I want to talk about the stuff I actually like about him. There are quite a few things he's doing that I think most politicians flat out refuse to do. In fact, one of the things I respect about Fishback most is his willingness to fight back against the establishment, even if it costs him donors. For example, right now, as I'm making this video, James is giving a speech out in Florida, and this guy got up on the mic and said he doesn't care if you love Israel or hate Israel. No American should ever die for Israel. It was fucking awesome.
I'll tell you right here, right now. You can love Israel, you can be skeptical of Israel, but no American should ever die for Israel.
My view. That's my view.
And whether or not you agree doesn't matter. The point I'm making is that he's clearly not saying the things he's saying because he wants to appeal to some wealthy donor behind the scenes. Could there be some sort of other behind the scenes reason he's saying all this? Absolutely. But if that is the case, he's definitely not auditioning for the same wealthy donor class every other politician is begging for checks from.
You should have changed the law when you were a United States Senator. You know, right? Because your donors and your special interests are doing the same thing as I do, except even more so. Well, you should have changed the law, but you won't change the law because you're taking so much money.
Whether or not Fishback is genuine can most definitely be up for debate. But as far as his image goes, James is clearly presenting himself as an America First patriot who's willing to say the quiet part out loud. And being willing to go as far as he goes is the main reason so many of the biggest polarizing figures on the internet have been willing to give him a platform. Of course, we know Zoran Mamdani's entire campaign revolved around his public presence, showing up on big influencers' live streams, even doing a full-fledged collaboration with Hassan Piker, only to denounce him later on when he debate Andrew Cuomo.
And
I find the comments that Hassan made on 9/11 to be objectionable and reprehensible. And I also think that part of the reason why Democrats are in the situation that we are in, of being a permanent minority in this country, is we are looking only to speak to journalists.
And just like Mom Donnie had Hassan Piker, Fishback has people like Clavicular and Sneeko bringing him on stream, which is also arguably more meaningful to his campaign, you know, considering both of them are actually Florida residents. Unlike Hassan, who has lived in California since long before he collabed with the New York City mayor.
Tax, you might as well just go all the way.
Can you explain that a little bit? So I see that some of them are upset that you want to impose a tax on OnlyFans creators, 50%, called the BOP tax, the HO tax. What is this?
It is 50% of everything that people like Sophie Rain make, for the simple reason that we want to stop them from doing it. And so the best way to do it, to stop them, is to create a tax that's so high, Sneeko, that they don't even want to do it in the first place.
Now, I'm just gonna be honest, and I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but this whole sin tax thing is kind of one of the first things this guy's lost me on. Obviously, I think websites like OnlyFans and other adult media platforms are bad. Like, I completely understand why they're harmful to society, you know? People aren't getting married, people aren't having kids, people aren't even really dating. A bunch of people that probably wouldn't have been are convinced they're the women think they're too good for the men. The men have unrealistic fantasies for the women. The list just goes on and on, but hear me out. Discouraging women from selling their bodies online, very good stuff. We love that. Doing so via taxing an entire 50% of their income? I can't lie, dude, I'm not a big fan. Again, I do get the incentive, but if you don't see how this could be a slippery slope, I don't know what to tell you. All I'm saying is, who's to say Fishback's sin tax doesn't inspire other governors to create new tax laws for other forms of content creation? Nick Fuentes gets at least $3,000 in super chats every single night. Do you really think it wouldn't be just as easy for the governor of Illinois to put a 50% tax on any and all income from all content creators in general? How do you think someone like Nick Fuentes would feel about that? I don't think he'd be happy. Although Fuentes has endorsed Fishback a number of times now, he didn't have too much to say about the sin tax.
You know, I really like what I've seen from Fishback. I have to say I'm a bit conflicted still for a few reasons. I don't want to hurt him. That's kind of my first thing, is I don't want to speak out of turn and hurt a politician by association. But you know what? He seems really smart. I was really impressed with him on Tucker. Very impressed. You know, I've seen some stuff from him, but his social media is very impressive. His TikTok, his Instagram, I see him everywhere. Very well spoken, very sharp.
No matter how you look at it, this endorsement is a huge deal for Fishback, especially considering he basically adopted a very large portion of the America First movement as part of his campaign, and without it, he more than likely wouldn't have a fraction of the support he has now. A lot of people, including John Hunt, who is a friend to the channel, say that James is nothing more than a grifter using this movement as a means to progress his own career, and nothing more. And like, I don't know, I just kind of feel like that could be said about literally anyone that talks about this kind of stuff. Obviously, anyone that's talking about this shit wants some sort of career in media or journalism. Personally, I just want to stay on the internet, but that's just me. I don't really like doing too much, you know? I guess what it really comes down to in my eyes is whether or not the people using these talking points to progress their career actually care about the things they're saying or not. And one thing that I think is extremely important to mention is that James Fishback was asked if he was willing to denounce Nick Fuentes and his followers, to which he did the exact opposite.
I want to clarify some comments that I made this week rather abruptly in a live interview about the young men in our country who watch and follow Nick Fuentes. I want to clarify and apologize for absolutely nothing.
And as cool as it is to see a legitimate politician embrace someone as controversial as Nick Fuentes, we definitely can't be getting too ahead of ourselves either, you know? Like everyone we see on the internet, we must remain skeptical until we see the actual results of the promises being made. And of course, we'll never be able to find out whether or not he's being genuine until after he actually wins the Republican nomination. And furthermore, the position is Florida's next elected governor. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't even think it matters that he hasn't gotten Donald Trump's endorsement, or that this is his first time trying to truly make a name for himself in mainstream politics. I fully believe it's possible for James to win this election, and even if he doesn't win, he is at the very least opening the door for a true America First politician to get his foot in the door. How many politicians do you see using Tinder as a campaign strategy? This right here alone should be enough to tell you that this guy is just built different. But like I said, I have had some private conversations of my own that have led me to further skepticism. Just because James is pushing the message he's pushing now doesn't necessarily mean he was always residing on the right side of the coin. One morning I saw Lily Gaddis make a post on Twitter stating that she would be blocking the next person she saw repost or endorse Fishback. So naturally, given she does follow me, my curiosity got the best of me and I took it upon myself to DM her myself, asking her why she and so many others seem to be turning on Fishback this early in his campaign. To which she informed me that he allegedly has an extremely close relationship with Bari Weiss. If you don't know who Bari Weiss is, all that really matters is that she's a pro-Israel political commentator, and she founded an independent media company called the Free Press.
Bari Weiss is like an Israeli spy.
The same independent media company that gave James his first real chance to get his name into the space. Now, I'd like to believe this is obvious, but just in case it's not, James having any relationship with someone like Bari Weiss is enough to at the very least raise suspicions. Especially when you take a look at how hard James has been going with his anti-Israel message. But for what it's worth, I really can't even verify how close their relationship actually was. This picture is the only thing I really have to go off of, and to be fair, James has publicly acknowledged that he isn't surprised to find out Bari won't be voting for him. In my opinion, it is totally possible that their relationship can just be chalked down to a co-worker-esque relationship, you know? But when I first mentioned this revelation on one of my recent live streams, someone in my chat told me Fishback having any relationship with Bari at all is more than enough for him to draw his support. But as of right now, I still haven't fully written Fishback off my list. I do think it's only fair we take his young age of 31 into consideration before we make any final verdicts. This guy is young as fuck, okay? There is a very good chance that his shift towards America First is genuine. But then again, he could obviously be grifting. Anyone could be grifting. That is a very real possibility. I don't want to be the ignorant one that completely wipes that possibility off the table or anything, but if we aren't gonna at the very least give politicians that are doing as much as they possibly can to push this movement a chance, what are we gonna do? Wait for some random guy to come along and run for president when we're all in our 40s? Seriously, the amount of pessimism I see online is absolutely insane. We've reached a point where it almost feels like people are disappointed when someone new that pops up doesn't turn out to be part of some great big conspiracy that changes the course of the world forever. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. Are you a fan of Fishback, or do you find him suspicious and think he can't be trusted? One thing I definitely want to say is that if nothing else, his approach is refreshing. And say what you want about Mamdani, but it is really nice to see younger people getting involved in politics at such a high level of power. For literal generations, people have complained and complained. 90% of the politicians we see running the country are old men that still think the same way they did when they were born during the baby boom. And I know I already said this, but again, say what you want about their plans to approach their goals, but the actual goals they claim to have do benefit the greater good of the people they represent. Make sure to smash that like button if you want to see more content like this, and subscribe with notifications turned on if you haven't done so already. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Murky, and as always, I will see you in the next one.